Hey, Shalom Akim, Shalom, Shalom, all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakak, Wadash, double honors the apostles and the elders, great millstone of teachings of truth. Citations to the sincere Akim and Aqua to listen. May the blessing of election be upon your house. My name is Brother Akwai. I'm back here with another quick and Lord's will, as always, an edifying lesson. And for today's lesson, I don't really fully know what I might title it, but it's kind of based on the image you see on the screen, basically. So you can read that for yourself. So this is basically, simply put, a conversation I was having with, an Israelite, looking to get into the essentially the music industry. And so what I was what he was he was just kind of sharing me his plans, and I was just kind of like in the spirit of just like to letting him know like this is what it is, and avoid it, avoid that realm, avoid that world, right? Because that will essentially that destroys a lot of our people. So so on the left of the screen, the messages in gray, those are his messages, and the messages that are in green are my messages. So this is just simply put a conversation I was having with an Israelite, and our people don't seem to understand. They don't understand their enemy, and they don't understand the ins and outs of what they would have to do when they're in those situations, because there's been plenty of evidence, like the scriptures say, knowledge shall be increased, so there's a lot of information that has come out in regards to these entertainers, the things that they've had to do, and then the things that they have to continue to do to essentially maintain that status, maintain those riches, and the things they have to do in that world, so to speak. So okay, this is 1 John 2:15. It says, "Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. But all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world. And the world passeth away, and the lust thereof. But he that doeth the will of the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, abideth forever." Right? So these things that they push forth in that industry, it pushes our people to become a poster child for wickedness. So for example, the lyrics that they have to write, the lyrics they have to push forth, the messages they have to put out, so that includes the men as well as the women. The things that they have to do, you essentially, Jake doesn't understand their enemy. That's why the scriptures say, turn thou, O Jacob, that thou mayest be illuminated, right? So there's really nothing and truly wrong with being illuminated in righteousness, because you get to understand, what's going on in the world. You understand that you have enemies. You understand and how your enemy actually operates. So because we know, our nationality and our heritage, we know our we know our enemies, and we know how our enemy operates, because the scriptures say don't trust your enemy. And one of the things that he wants you to do is to essentially transgress against your power, right? So this is why when you essentially do that, the Lord is pretty much going to hide his face from us, right? So because for example, as a matter of fact, let me go to Timothy, because our people think that their problem is is simply it just has to do with money. Like, yes, we know that money is a defense. You need it to pay your bills and groceries and, keep a roof over your head. But as a matter of fact, let me read it and make the point. So this is 1 Timothy 6, verse... I'll start at verse 6, and it says, "But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out." And there's proof of that because, for example, you have entertainers that have, been in this industry, like Michael Jackson, for example, and all his estate, his riches, he passes away, and you can't take that with you, right? You can't take that with you. You know what I'm saying? So it's this says verse 8, and it says, "And having food and raiment, let us be there with content. But they that are rich fall into temptation, and they snare, and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men into destruction and perdition. For the love of money is the root of all evil." So it's not just money, it's the love of money. And that's another vibration that they constantly push in their music. It's money, hoes, and clothes, all a nigga knows. That's the vibration that they push. And then, and I say the word money very loosely because it's not even real money, because we know that the money is not backed by anything of intrinsic value. We know this society is so backwards, it's so upside down, that the money that they're bragging and boasting in, that they hold to their ear, and they think that, they have some kind of essentially upper hand against their own people. They don't have a lot of, our people don't essentially have the the know-how of what's actually going on until, it's, essentially it's too late. So let me finish reading this. This is verse 10, and it says, "The love of money is the root of all of evil, while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith, and pierced themselves through with many sorrows." Right? And Yahushua said that a man's life doesn't consist in the things that we possesseth, right? So these things that these rappers, they talk about, these industry plants that they talk about, they brag about, they essentially, they become conduits for wickedness. And this is what a lot of our people don't understand. Just like our apostles and elders are conduits for Yahweh Bashem Yahushai in righteousness, these men, these rappers, as well as the female entertainers also, they're also conduits. They're conduits for wickedness. They channel a very wicked vibration. So, for example, when you listen to their music, it's always about money. It's always about adultery. It's always about defrauding your neighbor, defrauding your own people. It's about deleting your own people. They push a very unrighteous spirit upon our own people. So when they hear these things, they're more enticed. As a matter of fact, let me get this precept here. They're more enticed to behave in that kind of way, because they don't understand. Like, going back to the earlier point, they don't understand their enemy, because their enemy wants to pack you up like a bunch of sardines in a tin can and shove you into the prison, right? So Esau is very, very meticulous by the way he capitalizes off Jake. But Jake don't see that. But going back to the point, that's why it's so important to be illuminated. So the precept, okay, one second. Okay, this is Proverbs 12, verse 26. And it says, "The righteous is more excellent than his neighbor, but the way of the wicked seduceth them, right? So our people get very, very seduced into doing these kind of behaviors, just like the way Esau naturally behaves. We're supposed to be, like, just for example, we're supposed to be our brother's keeper, but the vibration that they push in their music is a spirit of Cain. Art thou my brother's keeper? You know what I'm saying? That's the spirit that they have. They don't have a consideration for looking after, and pushing a vibration that cares for their own people. Let's get the women to be degenerates, be loose with their box, be a bunch of city girls, right? Fling their peace sleeve around. Let's get the men. Let's get them to talk about trying to get with another man's woman and glorify these things, right? Our people don't seem to understand the many different wavelengths of what Esau is really doing to get you away from the Most High, right? And what does that do? It promotes individuals who have absolutely no scruples and will do absolutely anything for money. Because this is what's so important about coming back to the Lord, because when we coming back to the Lord, it promotes a sense of righteousness, and it promotes a sense of proper scruples. Let me get, this one is one of my favorites. Let me just get this one real quick. This is Deuteronomy 4 and 5, and it says, "Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord Yahweh my power commanded me, that ye shall do so in the land whither ye go to possess it. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of these nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people," right? So we're supposed to be the beacon of understanding that these nations are supposed to come to. However, in this society, Jake is the beacon of darkness, of how essentially not to be. We're essentially a very shameless nation, right? Playing the whore with many different gods and many different lovers, and this is what Esau wants you to do. Go and okay, in order for you to get this deal, you got to put on a dress. For the men, for example, they have to, like the brothers, like the guy I was talking to right here, like he knows about the wickedness of the things that they have to do. You have to promote a very sodomite, lifestyle. You have to live a sodomite type of lifestyle, right? You have to, Kanye has even confessed himself, and he said, he had to, delete his own mother. The Jennifer Hudson, she had to delete some of her family members. A$AP Rocky, he's had to delete, he said, even he confessed and said to himself, no, it was an interview, that he had to, every time he releases an album, he loses a family member. Like, at what cost, right? Jake doesn't have any scruples, right? So let me go to this account when it comes to scruples. Just bear with me on this. Okay, this is 2 Samuel 18, and I'll just read down to 12, right? So just bear with me. So it says, the heading here is Absalom's defeat and death. So it says, David now mustered the men who were with him and appointed generals and captains to lead them. He sent the troops into 3 groups, placing one under Joab's brother Abishai, son of Zeruiah, And under Ittai, the man of Gath, the king told his troops, I'm going out with you. But his men objected strongly, saying, You must not go, they urged. If you have to turn and run, and even if half of us die, it will make no difference to Absalom's troops. They will be looking only for you. You only, excuse me, it says, you are worth 10,000 of us. It is better for you to stay here in the town and send help if we need it. Sorry, I'm reading in the NLT. Verse 4. If you think that's the best plan, I will do it, the king answered. So he stood alongside the gate of the town, and the troops marched into the groups of hundreds and thousands. And the king gave this command to Joab, Abishai, and Ittai, For my sake, deal gently with young Absalom. And all the troops heard the king give this order and his commanders. So this is very important right here, right? So I'll make the point, lower down. Just keep that in mind, right? So it says, verse 6, So the battle began in the forest of Ephraim, and the Israelite troops were beaten back by David's men. There was a great slaughter that day of 20,000 men laid down their lives. The battle raged across the countryside, and more men died because of the forest than were killed by the sword. During the battle, Absalom happened to come upon some of David's men. He tried to escape on his mule, but he rode beneath the thick branches of a great tree. His hair got caught in the tree. His mule kept going and left him dangling in the air, right? So now Absalom is in a predicament. In verse 10, just bear with me, it says, One of David's men saw what had happened and told Joab, and I saw Absalom dangling from a great tree. What? Joab demanded. You saw him there and didn't kill him? I would have rewarded you with 10 pieces of silver and a hero's belt. I would not kill the king's son for even 1,000 pieces of silver. The man replied to Joab, We all heard the king say to you and Abishai and Ittai, For my sake, please spare young Absalom. Right? So here, King David, he put out a decree saying, deal gently with my son Absalom. Right? So Absalom at this point in the story, he's tripping and he starts behaving wickedly, sleeping with his father's concubines and so on and so forth. So this was David's decree, deal gently with my son, right? Now the point I wanted to make here, after giving that decree, Joab, he said to the young man, listen, I would have paid you all this money, right? So he had an opportunity to make a lot of money. This man, it doesn't mention the man's name here. I'll read it again. Verse 11, What? Joab demanded. You saw him there and didn't kill him. I would have rewarded you for 10 pieces of silver and a hero's belt. Right? So Joab kind of was like, I would have given you all this money. I would have given you this substance. Right? But the man replied to him and said, listen, you could have given me all these amount of shekels of silver. We heard that the king told us to be gentle with Absalom. So I'm reading this to explain and show that we actually had examples of men who had scruples and morals. We didn't just he could have, say for example, if Jake heard that today, he'd be like, okay, well, what I gotta do, Jake is not an example of when it comes to morality, when it comes to scruples, when it comes to having character. They don't have character when it comes to situations with money, right? They're very, very quick especially in this society, they're very, very quick to essentially defraud their own neighbor. They talk about, for example, let's establish all these different businesses, and a lot of these businesses don't do well because they don't have the proper character of how to deal with each other. And that's going back into the scriptures, right? We have to, be a certain way and conduct ourselves in a certain manner with each other, right? Even like another example is during the time of Nehemiah, you had a lot of the elders that were putting a lot of financial burdens upon our own people because of usury, and that's not something we're supposed to do, right? So the point really I wanted to make here is the fact that Jake lacks scruples, they lack character, they lack morals, especially when it deals with our own people. I was watching a short documentary earlier today about MS-13, and MS-13, they would harass the more impoverished Israelites. I believe it was in El Salvador, if I'm not mistaken. And they will put out these decrees saying, okay, I'm not telling you to leave, but you have to pay us a certain percentage. And essentially they put a lot of heavier financial burdens, just like in the time of Nehemiah, upon and oppress their own people. Our people lack scruples, right? And where do we get that? We get that back into the law, statutes, and commandments, right? They don't know how to deal with each other. That's why the Lord is always upset with us, right? So that's pretty much the point. I kind of just wanted to get into that, and share that that account real quick. But Jake's problem is not simply just money. They're impoverished. You do have token Israelites that do very well in this society, but they're essentially impoverished and they're poor in the spirit, right? So anyways, I guess I'll just leave it there. But Lord's will, this lesson was edified. So give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Till next time, I say Shalom.